Reading with Joan.
Hi. Hi, kids. It says it's reading with Joan story time. Hello. Okay. Okay. Did you hear? Oh, the bird says it's time for us to enjoy a fun time of sharing our stories. Welcome. I'm Joan, your host for today. We have a special story for you. We have an announcement. Are you ready for this? Come along. Let's go. Our Kids Creative Contest. And what is this about? It's a submission of short stories, art, songwriting, poems, science, herbs. If you have anything creative, you can submit to us. Remember, you have a chance of winning a £50 grand prize. Just send your submission to john@infohopme.com. The deadline is April 27, 2020. The theme of the contest is Who Am I? You could actually write something that is related to all the things that we are doing in the program. But whichever way you choose, the theme of the contest is Who Am I? So we would love you to make your submission to us as soon as possible. Kids out there, remember, make your submission between now and April 27th. Let's creep into the story. What are you saying? Let's just have a little short break and then we'll be back.
Hi, it's 2021. We will start by reading a history book. Big J and I will be reading Black and British by David Olusoga. I start first with the introduction. When I was at school, there was no Black history. None of the Black people from the past we know about today were ever mentioned by my teacher. And my textbook contained nothing about the role Black people we have played in the story of Britain. So what I presume was that there must have not been any Black people in British history. It was only when I became a teenager and was able to read grown-up history books that I learned that there had been Black people throughout much of British history, all the way back to the Roman conquest. Wow! It was from then onwards I learned about slavery and about the British Empire, about Black Tudors like the trumpeter John Blank, and Black people like Dido, Elizabeth Bell, and Olusoga Ikwano, who lived in Britain in the 18th century. I also learned about the Black children who lived as slaves in the houses of rich people in London, Bristol, and Liverpool, and other cities. I read about the enslaved people who were made to work on plantations in the West Indies and America, and learned how the sugar and cotton they grew helped make Britain rich. I discovered that there had been Black sailors at the Battle of Trafalgar, and the Black soldiers have fought in the trenches of the First World War. I read about the Black pilots and navigators who served in the Royal Air Force. Wow, during the Second World War, and about the people who had come to Britain on the Windrush in 1948 to start new lives. A few years ago, I wrote a book for grown-ups about Black British history. Wow. Ever since I finished that book, young people and their parents have been asking me to write a book like this, a book for younger readers. This is a book I wish I had been given to read when I was at school. I have written it so that the history of Black people in Britain can be read by everybody and not just grown-ups. This book is an introduction. It is a place to start learning about Black British history, and it will introduce you to some thousands of black people who made their homes in Britain in past centuries. One thing I was taught about in my school was the Industrial Revolution. What I thought is probably what you have been taught. I learned about the huge factories that were built in the north of England and parts of Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. I learned about the rich men who owned them, and I was taught about the new machines they invented, like the water frame, the flying shuttle, and the spinning jenny. I was also taught about the children who had to work in factories that made the new products of the industrial age, and the mills that produced the clothes everyone wore. That's strange. I thought mills produced flour. Two of the most important products of the Industrial Revolution were cotton cloth and cotton yarn thread, made in the mills using the new machines. That's also strange. At my school, I learned about how the cotton that had been picked from cotton plants was transformed into cloth and yarn. But what I was not told by my teachers, and what was not mentioned in my school textbook or in any of the museums we visited on school trip, was where the cotton came before it arrived in the mill. Most of that cotton came from the Mississippi Valley in the deep south of the United States of America. It was grown on plantations by Africans, men and women who were enslaved. By the middle of the 19th century, when Queen Victoria was on the throne, 1.8 million African Americans worked growing cotton in the United States. Much of that cotton was sent on ships across the Atlantic Ocean to Britain. That made Britain rich. The ships sailed up the River Mersey into the docks of Liverpool. From there, it was sent to thousands of mills in Lancashire in the north of England, the part of the country around Manchester. The black people who were enslaved in America made the Mississippi Valley one of the richest places in the world, but they also made Manchester and Lancashire Valley wealthy. The cotton mills in and around Manchester made the city so rich that it was given a nickname, Cottonopolis. Today, remember the Industrial Revolution for the hard, difficult work of our ancestors who worked in the factories and mills. But we have forgotten almost 1.8 million black men and women of the American South who lived and died as slaves to grow the cotton. The enslaved people of the Deep South never set foot in Britain, but they are part of British history. This is just one example of the ways in which the histories of black people have often been missed out and of the British history we learn at school. Since I wrote the grown-up version of this book, new discoveries have been made and new black Britons from earlier generations have been found in old documents and stored in archives. Black British history is growing. We know more with passing each year. In recent years, we have learned about Jacques Francis, an enslaved black diver who led a diving expedition that attempted to salvage items from the Mary Rose, Henry VII's Henry VIII flagship, after it had sunk. Wow! We have also learned more about the lives of enslaved people living in Georgian Britain, thanks to a project at Glasgow University that had searched the archives to find more than 800 advertisements that were placed in British newspapers by slave owners, offering rewards for the return of enslaved people who have run away. Through those advertisements, we learn more about the ages, appearances, clothing, and skills of enslaved black people living in Britain more than 200 years ago. With each passing year, black British history is not only expanding, it is also becoming ever more personal to increasing numbers of people. Britain's population is changing. More of us than ever are members of families that include people of different skin colors and ethnicities. Black history helps explain how national history is intertwined with our family's histories. It helped us make sense of the country we are today. Wow, what did you learn? Learned about enslaved Black people who have achieved things. Wow, what do you think? We'll find out as we keep reading from the book Black and British. Thank you for joining us on Reading with Joan. Bye!
Hi kids! Today's story is from, once again, The Pot of Wisdom by Adwoa and Baba. Today we are reading another interesting story. Are you ready to listen to the story? Yes! The title of the story today is Ananse, the even-handed judge. Ananse, the even-handed judge. What happened to Ananse today? Let's find out. I like the beautiful picture of Ananse. Do you want to look at the picture with me? Look at Ananse. I like his dress. He is wearing a yellow dress. I really love yellow, color yellow. And the yellow body is also there today. Okay, let's read on and find out what happened in this story. Ananse's fame had spread afar as a result of his past deeds. And many people now recognize him as the man of much wisdom. As a result, the great king of a forest land appointed him to be judge of 2 villages. It was a job that Ananse took seriously. Day after day, he held court in one of the villages and judged wisely for all the people. He became well known for his even-handed judgments. One Thursday, he received messengers from one of the nearby villages who invited him to attend a marriage ceremony as the guest of honor on Saturday. Ananse was pleased to accept. The messengers had barely left when another group of messengers from the chief of the other village requested the presence of Ananse for the funeral of a village auntie on the same day. Whoa, what are they going to do? This caused a slight problem, said Ananse. You see, I have given my word that I will attend the marriage ceremony at the other village. Do you mean you have declined to attend the funeral of a chief's auntie in preference of a marriage ceremony? Asked the messenger. Now, that posed a real problem with our chief of whom you have slighted. What is Ananse going to do? We'll find out after the break. The body wants us to go on a break. Now we are back. Let's find out what Ananse did. I beg your pardon, said Ananse. I shall be there. Tell Nana it will be my honor to mourn with him. The messengers left at once. Now Ananse pondered what to do. As a great judge, his word was his bond. He knew no way to excuse himself from one or the other engagements. He had to find a way to defer to both parties and maintain his impartiality. How is he going to deal with this? Eventually, a plan came to him. He would send one of his sons to each village ahead of time. Each son would take along a long rope spun of spider silk, which Ananse had tied around his waist. Remember that Ananse is still a spider and good at spinning web. When it came to time for the party to start, all his sons had to do was tug his rope hard. Ananse would go to the place towards which he was tugged first. Then, at the first opportunity, he would leave the next village. In those days, there was no accurate way to telling time. Ananse would say quite broadly, sun up or sundown. On a Saturday of the festivals, Ananse bathed and dressed himself in the best clothes. You remember the yellow clothes he was wearing? Let's show it again, kids. That's him in his best clothes. Dark enough for mourning, bright enough for rejoicing. He secured a silky robe firmly around his waist and sent his sons on their way. Then he sat down to wait, quite pleased with himself. Eventually, he felt a tug around his left side. The marriage ceremony had started. He thought, I'd better be on my way. No sooner that he started off when the rope on the other side pulled hard. And then both ropes were pulling so hard that Ananse could hardly breathe. The wise judge has forgotten to tell his son to stop pulling after the initial tug. And now the brothers were involved in the tug of Ananse, which nearly tore him clean in two. By the time passersby has freed Ananse from the rope, he could hardly walk. He was quite unable to go either to the ceremonies, and his great reputation for wisdom was ruined as the people laughed at his folly. Fearing that no one would ever listen to his judgment again, he fled to the corner of his room and hid his face. What do you think? What do you think Ananse was up to today? Do you want to tell me? Let me know. All right, I think I'll tell you. Does the little bird know? Let's find out from the little bird. Okay. Okay. The little bird said Ananse had problem in deciding. He was trying to satisfy everybody at the same time. So kids, can you satisfy everybody at the same time? No, nobody can do that. Because if you try to satisfy and please everybody, you will hurt yourself in the process. Like Ananse, do not make an effort to please or satisfy everybody. Okay? Remember, that's the lesson we learned from the Ananse story, and the little bird had helped us to learn a beautiful lesson. Remember the lesson and always ask the lessons. And until next time, I'll see you again on Reading with Joan Story Time. Bye.